And welcome back to WGN-TV Political Report. Democrats will take back the White House in January, but whether or not a Joe Biden administration can get anything done will depend on who wins control of Congress. As of this morning, balance of the Senate remains split 48-48. Republicans are expected to pick up 2 more seats in North Carolina and Alaska, but 2 other races in Georgia are likely headed to runoff elections in January. Democrats are poised to keep control of the House, though, by a narrower margin than it did 2 years ago. In Illinois, one of the most closely watched congressional races of this cycle is still up in the air. As of this morning, Republican State Senator Jim Oberweis now leads first-term Congresswoman Lauren Underwood by just 558 votes in the 14th district. Last week, Oberweis actually declared victory before any official call in the race. And Underwood, of course, says there could be plenty of provisional ballots still uncounted. Joining me this morning, Congressman Brad Schneider from Illinois' 10th District. He won re-election on Tuesday and has worked closely this cycle with freshmen in competitive races like Lauren Underwood. Congressman, congratulations to you on your re-election.
Thanks, Paul. It's great to be with you.
So now let's get down to some of the tougher issues you got to deal with. Look, Democrats will control the House, to be sure, but let's remember that President Trump did garner 70 million votes. He didn't, fall by the wayside here. How does Joe Biden work to unite a country that is so divided?
Thanks. And first, I want to congratulate President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris. It was a historic election. First time we'll have a woman in the White House as Vice President, I think is really remarkable. And a woman of color, of Indian descent. This is all something that we should be celebrating as an entire nation. And I think you saw last night as they made their speeches, their intention to work to unite the nation. Joe Biden has said it many times, quoting Barack Obama, it's not red states or blue states. It's the United States of America. And he is going to be the president for all of the United States of America and all of the people within this country, those 75 million who voted for the president-elect and the 70+ million who voted for somebody else. But the fact of the matter is we are one country, and the challenges we face, whether it's beating back this pandemic, fixing our economy, renewing our economy and getting people back to work, addressing the racial tension in the nation, or tackling climate change, you can go down that entire list. The only way we can achieve it is if we work together as one country.
So let me ask you, I mentioned the 14th district coming in, your friend Lauren Underwood, of course, up against Jim Oberweis. Why is that race so close with Oberweis even still in the lead? I mean, if the pandemic response is Joe Biden's #1 issue, and I know it's your #1 issue in addition to environment and other things, I mean, Underwood is all about the pandemic. She's a nurse. Why is she having trouble?
Well, I can look at that district and compare it to my district after my first election. I won in 2012 by just a bit over 1%. I lost in 2014 by 2% and came back and won in 2016 by 5%. This is a district that has, the 14th, Lauren's district, has long been Republican, like mine was 32 years before I had won it. So, I'm not surprised it's a close race. I can tell you with the votes that were put out, that the votes counted and released in Lake County last night, Lauren has flipped that number and has a slight lead. I would not be surprised to see that lead grow for Lauren as more ballots are counted. But I'm not surprised that it's a close race. It's, I think, a reflection of the district. And I think in time, as Lauren builds her relationships with the folks in the community, we won our election in 2018 by 30 points, more than 30 points, and right. We're on track to be close to that number this time.
So let me ask you, congressional Democrats as a group have seen better days. Looks like Democrats will lose 7 or 8 seats. Even Sherry Bustos in the 17th district almost lost her seat, and she runs the Democratic, congressional efforts. What went wrong? Was it the message? Is it the comments like defunding the police, the Green New Deal, the concepts of socialism? We know the Congress, you all had a big phone meeting about that, and it seems as though some of you are saying, watch this message we're sending out. It could kill us in 22.
Well, let me frame it a little bit different. We had 3 goals going into election night: to win the presidency, to flip the Senate, and to expand our majority in the House. By far, the biggest objective was achieved. We won the presidency. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are president-elect and vice president-elect, respectively. That's going to change the direction we go as a country. That was a huge win. I certainly would have liked to have an outright win in the Senate. We have 2 races in Georgia that will determine that. And yes, we did lose some races in the House, and as a frontline chair, I worked with these people in these tough races. We had 45 frontline members, people in the tough districts like my district used to be. The majority of those were in districts that Trump had won in 2016. So we knew that it was going to be tough. And what's important, I think this is important looking forward, is that we craft a message that the entire country can feel comfortable with, that we are going to beat back the virus, grow our economy, and get people back to work, that we're going to address and tackle the racial divisions within this country.
Yeah.
We are a nation that has as our motto, e pluribus unum, from many one, and we need to achieve that and tackle some of the most important issues in our nation, climate change. That's what's going to unite the country. We do it in a way that brings people together, and whether it's on the far right or the far left, messages that divide us, messages that are extreme, I don't think are messages that unite us.
All right, Congressman, about a minute left. A couple things I definitely want to get to. Nancy Pelosi said she wants another term. There's also a call, of course, for younger blood for a variety of reasons. Look, it's not like she shored up the base, didn't get some of the Republican suburban seats she was looking for. Do you support Nancy Pelosi for another term as Speaker?
I do, and I should have said this to open the last question. We held the House in a very difficult time. We held the majority in the House, and the Democrats are leading that. I think Nancy Pelosi demonstrated her mettle over the last 2 years in dealing with the Trump administration. I think Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, Jim Clyburn have demonstrated their ability, and they will work well with President Biden. You saw Jim Clyburn's effect when he endorsed then candidate Biden. But the fact of the matter is we have a huge number of really talented younger members of Congress who are rising up. People like Hakeem Jeffries, Sherry Bustos, Catherine Clark in Massachusetts. And we have a class of people coming in this new election that are only going to strengthen the expertise and capabilities we have within the House. And what I'm excited to see is the expertise and capabilities that will be coming in with the Biden administration. So our government will finally be working well. All right, Congressman Brad Schneider, a lot more to talk to you about, but we're out of time. But please come back, if you would. I certainly will. It's great seeing you, Paul. Congressman Brad Schneider, thank you so much. Coming up next on the WGN-TV Political Report.
It went down to defeat. I understand the other side told the lies that they told. A lot of people believed that, and that's too bad. And now we're going to have to suffer the pain that they've brought on.
Governor J.B. Pritzker's so-called fair tax failed. Now what? We're talking to the newly elected Senate Minority Leader-elect about the road ahead. And still to come, a stunning rebuke of the most powerful man in Illinois politics. Could Democratic lawmakers push Mike Madigan out as the head of the state party? More on that next.